Hi, welcome to Knits Up. I'm your host, Mindy, otherwise known as Knitter CNY. You can find me on Ravelry as Knitter CNY. You can find me on Instagram as Knitter CNY. There's a podcast group for the Knits Up podcast that's on Ravelry, and there's also a Facebook page. So those are all the places you can find me. This week I'm doing a little something unusual in that I am recording an audio update, I guess you would say. And that's because I wanted to get this out to the most number of subscribers I can. For those of you who don't know, I started out many years ago as an audio only podcaster. The technology hadn't developed where it was affordable for video podcasting. Once that technology did develop and it was at a price point I could afford, I used a Logitech web camera to record for a long time. Lately, I've switched from an iTouch a few years ago that recorded in 1080, and then I, condensed down, and then I went to a phone, just my regular phone. Over Christmas, I bought a new phone that has a 20 megapixel front and back camera, a 13 megapixel front and back camera. So I will be recording with that, but the light isn't that great today. It's kind of overcast, and there's not really that much to say. And I'm going to kind of refer you to Instagram and my projects page on Ravelry so you can get a look at what I'm working on. So I thought I'd describe what's going on. For those of you who didn't know, I had pneumonia about 2-3 weeks ago. It was really bad. I walked down to my neighbor's on Christmas because she saw me out in the driveway and said, "I've got a Christmas present for you." Her house is kitty corner to mine, like literally a house away across the street. And I was winded by the time I got to her house. And she said to me, "You've got pneumonia." Well, she was right. She's a nurse. So she diagnosed me in about 10 seconds. And then the next day I went to my own physician who gave me antibiotics, after getting a chest x-ray and doing a physical exam, gave me antibiotics and prednisone. So I've just finished all of that. So that's good. I've been using a humidifier, just a cool mist humidifier in my room at night because I have natural gas heat up here in central New York. That's the CNY part of my handle on Ravelry. And it dries out the air a lot. So having that humidifier at night helps. I cast on some socks. I've finished some socks, and I cast on a new item. And there also will be a giveaway associated with this podcast announcement or update. For Christmas, the neighbor who diagnosed the pneumonia actually gave me a gift card to Joann's. So I picked you up something and I picked me up something. Well, let's talk about the giveaway since I've already let the cat out of the bag, which I don't know how anybody would get a cat in a bag, because if you've ever tried to even put a blanket over a cat, sometimes they're pretty vicious. So no cats in bags. Anyways, Joann's, at least in our area now, is carrying the Prym, Prym, ergonomic knitting needles from Germany. I have bought a set of double point size 6s for myself previously before I ever got the gift card. But while I was there at Joann's yesterday, I thought, well, I bet somebody knits with straights. I bet they want not big, huge ones. So what I got was a US size 10, which is a 6.0 millimeter, 14-inch single pointed set of 2 knitting needles. So your basic straight needles. They're a size 10. That's what you get in the giveaway. And you'll also get, I'm going to pull a couple of skeins of chunky weight yarn that would be appropriate to go with said needles. So if you want to make yourself, a scarf or a hat or something small. There'll be a couple of skeins of yarn like that, and that gets a couple of skeins of yarn out of my stash. So you won't know exactly what you'll get for the yarn, but you will know what you get for the needles. I tried to use the needles. For me, the straights really don't work. So that's why I am putting them in the giveaway. So they've been taken out of the box once, used for a whole 5 minutes, and then clicked back together, and they go back in the box. So that's your caveat. But basically, you've got some knitting needles and a few skeins of yarn coming. This giveaway will be open only to people that are subscribed. Well, let's do it through the Ravelry group. That makes it easy for me because I can pick a random number. So if you're in the Ravelry group and you're a member of my Ravelry group, feel free to enter. I'll start a thread that says new giveaway, New Year's giveaway, and your handle, your question will be, what are your knitting goals for 2019, or your crochet goals or spinning goals, whatever. Something you want to do in 2019 that is new and exciting, or even boring, whatever. And then I will close that on, let's say 2 weeks from now. So whatever, today is Sunday. So whatever the first Sunday of January was, count 2 weeks after that, and I'll close it that day, whatever time. I'll sort of decide that day. And if I don't close the thread, please remind me, and then I'll pick a random number that day, and then I will PM that person and say, what's your name and address, so I can put this all in a box and mail it to you. I will not mail it with tracking or anything like that. All I'm going to do is send it just priority through the U.S. Postal Service, and it's, whatever you can fit in a box for a plain price. I'm not going to spend a lot of money shipping this to anybody. So basically, you'll know because I'll email you, or I'll PM you through Ravelry. So there you go. Okay, so what I got finished was a pair of socks that have been on the needles for quite a while. Those are I can't remember whether I talked about this the last podcast or not. The Regia Perfect socks that I cast on Christmas Eve 2017. They are out of Regia Perfect by Arne and Carlos. In I think it's the garden colorway, so they're sort of orangey and green. I finished those up because I thought they've been languishing there for a year, so I finished them up. I also finished a pair of socks out of Cascade Heritage Prints that have purple and blue stripes, and then there's like some Fair Isle stripes in between that are black and white and orange and white. I had to wait for a little bit because I had to order more reinforcement thread that wasn't super thin. I had been using Fortissima reinforcement thread, which I don't think you can even get anymore in black. I think it's a discontinued thing. So I ordered some Regia thread from can't remember where I ordered it from, but it was close enough. And they're socks. They're going in my shoes. Nobody's staring at my reinforcement thread. Both pairs of those socks were cuffed down. And then New Year's Eve, since I was still working on stocks on Christmas Eve and a little bit after that, on New Year's Eve, I decided I'd cast on a new pair of socks. For those of you who remember, a year and a half ago, I went up to Listowel, Ontario in the summer for the, not the big, huge tent sale that Spinrite usually has in August, but what they call the big balls sale, which I find funny because they're big balls of yarn. That's why it's funny. And there's a factory outlet store for Spin Right, which makes Peyton's, Bernat, and Karen and Lily yarn too. They bought all of those brands over the years. A lot of the yarn they don't make up there anymore that they used to. A lot of it's imported now, but that's okay. And then I had stayed in Niagara Falls, watched the fireworks over the falls from like the top floor of the DoubleTree, which was really nice. I highly recommend it. Good hotel, good restaurant. And I had gone to, oh, I can't remember what the name of the place was, but there's also another place that was right next door that's called Cambridge Fibers, that they do some, I think they do like test knitting, maybe for Spin Right. I don't know, but they had a lot of bagged stuff that at the time I could sort of go, yeah, that kind of looks like this, or it kind of looks like that, but I wasn't really sure. So one of the things they had was a big thing of mill ends for sock yarn. And the one that I got, one that was, they're both Peyton's Croy. One is the Mexicala Stripes colorway, and I think it was like $5 for 150 or 166 grams, which is like 350-gram balls of sock yarn for like $6 or something like that. And then the other color that I got was Eclipse Stripes, which is sort of a black and white and gray. Well, I thought it was kind of miserable New Year's Eve, so I grabbed the Mexicala Stripes colorway. I described it to my neighbor as it sort of looks like a piñata, was cut open, and it kind of looks like all the candy in the piñata stuff. All of those bright, really bright, pretty colors, that you'd find in Mexico or, that sort of thing, or in your piñata stuff with a bunch of candy. So it's varying, varying widths of stripe and varying colors. There's purple, there's orange, yellow, there's some blue and white in there, there's some green, there's some bright pink, there's some little bit of everything. So I started out with a purple cuff. I'm knitting those cuff down on, I think they're size 2.0 millimeters, because they seem a whole lot tighter, but they may be 2.25, but I think they're 2.0 because they're tight. And I think I might be knitting these on Addie. I'm not sure. They were whatever ones were available, and they were all the same size, so I grabbed them. And then yesterday, excuse me, yesterday I started a sweater for myself, and I'm doing it on size 10 needles, and I'm using Lion Brand Homespun in the Wisteria colorway. You can't buy Wisteria colorway anymore. I believe it's discontinued. When I looked on Lion Brand's website, it was not there. But what I have 6 skeins of it. Pardon me. Because I have a closeout store that's 4 miles from me that's called Ollie's. You may have something similar to Ollie's. It's a chain where they buy a lot of closeout stuff. When they had the Toys R Us bankruptcy closing, they bought a lot of their toys. It's about 2 years ago. They had a whole bunch of Lion Brand yarn that they had. I don't know, whether it was discontinued. I made a sweater out of the Petunia Stripes colorway in the Homespun, and that turned out kind of big because I wasn't measuring correctly, but it's a good around-the-house warm sweater to wear over pajamas or whatever. But I have 6 skeins of this Wisteria colorway. It's sort of a pinkish with some tones of salmon and green and blue in it. It's just an odd colorway. You wouldn't call it straight pink. You wouldn't call it coral. It's sort of in between. So you'll find a picture of that, I made a projects page and I took a picture of one of the skeins. The pattern that I'm using is the adult 2 cable pullover that is from a book that Lion Brand put out years ago that's called Lion Brand Homespun 8 Knits for the Family. Um, and I've made that particular sweater before out of homespun. Um, and at the time, it was big. So what I did was I threw it in a washer and dryer, and I dried it full blast, high heat. And what happened is the dryer killed the acrylic, basically, but it kind of made it, I don't know what it did. It kind of made it crunchy. I don't know what to call it other than that. So it's really locked in place, but yet it's very soft. It's a warm sweater, but it's very light because it is homespun. So I'm hoping that'll happen with this. The needle I'm using on this, I think, is it's a fixed needle. I don't know where it came from. I have no idea, but it's a circular size 10. The reason I wanted to use this yarn and this pattern is because I know what the outcome is going to be, and I also know that for me, a worsted weight sweater would take forever, and I don't want to take forever on a sweater. I'm done with that. It's too much for me right now. It's too much knitting. I wanted something that goes fast. So I cast this on last night, maybe about 7 o'clock or so, 8 o'clock. And to give you an idea, I'm not doing, the cables are listed to be done on the front and the back. I'm not doing the cables on the back. I think that's silly for me. Nobody cares what the back of my sweater looks like. So I'm doing it flat on the back. For the largest size, which I'm doing, which I believe is a 60-inch finished circumference, for the back of it, you cast on 76 stitches. And it's some garter stitch and a lot of stockinette. So really easy. It's kind of a mindless knit. I'm already 4 inches in. So, and it's good. The needles I'm using are nickel plated, so they've got to be like a Velocity or something, Addy or something along those lines. But it's going really fast. The circular needle keeps the weight of everything in front of me, so it's not bothering my wrists or anything like that. And so that'll be what I'm knitting for a while, is socks and that sweater. I also, in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, knitted 8 dishcloths. I have a whole bunch of cotton yarn from my neighbor who's the nurse. When her mother passed away a few years ago, she gave me her mom's cotton yarn stash because her mom used to make cotton dishcloths. So every year I knit her a couple of dishcloths, and then, I bought cotton yarn over the years, and some of it was my mom's too. And I just knit the Grandma's Best dishcloth, which is a corner to corner dishcloth. You start out with 4 stitches. I usually go to 49 stitches because I like multiples of 7 for some reason. And then I go back down. I do decreases and go back down to a 4. So that is really easy to do. It's mindless. I use usually a size 7, US size 7 needle, which I can't remember what it is in millimeters right now. But just really simple. So I had all different colors of that and did 8 dishcloths for my boss at work, the president of our company, who was our secret Santa, and one of my coworkers in the office too. And then I did a couple of dishcloths for my neighbor down the street. So that's about all I've been working on. So again, if you want to enter that giveaway, I will start a thread on Ravelry, and you can enter there. You do have to be a member of the group. I'll close that giveaway in 2 weeks, and then I will PM the winner to get their name and address. and that's only open to people in the United States of America, so I can put that into the US mail and just have it be, relatively inexpensive. So have a great week, guys, and please craft. It's good for your health. Bye-bye.